Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Now, the reason for having this extra content is uh, for all the questions that did not get to be answered the other day because we ran out of time live. All right. So we're calling this Storyteller's Journey with Sandra Khoo Part 2. Right. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hello,
Sandra.
Sandra. Okay.
Hi,
So
everyone.
yeah, so thank you for joining us again, everyone. We are 8 p.m. No, actually almost 9 p.m. in KL and almost 3 p.m. over in France where Sandra is, right? So, Sandra, are you ready for the questions?
Yeah, far away.
Okay, first question. Hi, are there anything that you struggle to draw? This is from Tan Min Chin. Is there anything that you
Uh,
struggle to draw? What is it?
everything. um, uh, First would be background sets,
Mm.
architecture. Then we
Oh.
go on to the mechanics like vehicles and robots. That
Mm.
one I didn't grow up drawing a lot of, so it's a bit more challenging for me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's a bit technical, right? So I think you need
Yeah.
to have reference on the actual thing, like say robots, the whichever company that did the drawing, correct?
Is
Yeah.
is
Also
there?
because this sort of things require patience, and I'm quite
Right.
impatient as an
Do
artist.
do you use certain softwares to actually establish the to kind of trash out the perspective? Because I've noticed that there are some artists who use existing
Mm.
photographs just to knock out
Uh-huh.
the
Uh-huh.
perspective, makes it a lot easier. They lower the
Oh.
opacity and draw over it.
Mhm.
Some use SketchUp. Do you use something specific or do you just eyeball it?
No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Only recently I've applied some photographic references, but prior to that, no. I eyeballed it all the way.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so
But
it
the
was very
main thing
difficult.
is that you have got to have reference to eyeball to make
Yeah.
things as accurate as
Uh,
possible.
Before that, I didn't even reference a lot, to be honest. I just try and figure it out as I go along, depending on what details are required.
Hmm.
And my brain tried to figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember watching like a short documentary when they were doing the Hunchback of Notre Dame. They have all these artists sitting
Mm, mm,
in front of the Notre Dame and then sketching out the
mm-mm.
picture. So yeah,
Right.
I think for accuracy's sake, I think you need
Mm.
either to have the live thing in
Mhm,
front of you or some reference.
But
mhm.
I think most of your work really your forte is in character. I would presume,
Yeah,
and that's why
yeah.
your the range of your portfolio really is to do with characters. You were never kind of pushed to,
Mhm.
oh, Sandra, let's have you do a whole set of backgrounds with all of these linear perspectives to deal
Uh,
with.
if they even thought of me as the go-to person, they quickly threw away that idea after seeing what I perform.
All right, all right.
Okay. So right.
Uh,
So next question from Kong Qian. Uh,
mhm.
have you ever met a client that's really hard to cooperate with? You know, clients that tell you they're okay with anything, then in the end up for requesting lots of changes
Uh-huh.
after you're done. So
Mhm.
what do you do when you encounter these kind of clients?
Well, from the get-go, I had my own taste of difficult clients, and what I find is the best way to tackle this situation is when you need to drop a contract and just state straight on that you're going to just do this amount of phases of retake. If they demand more, just pay more, and that will really unburden your concerns
Yeah.
and worries. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
that's
have
the
a dialogue with the
situation.
client straight on and be honest with each other. That's
Mm.
the best way to
What
tackle it.
is this
So
a
there's no misunderstanding and anything. Yeah.
is this a practice that you started very early on, or was it something you kind of
Uh,
realized along the way?
Honestly, we can say that none of us were taught this. We
Yeah, yeah,
experience it as it comes along when we get into
right,
the industry.
It's
right.
So
the
this is
industry that
something I
schooled us
learned
on
out of
this thing.
survival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, personally, like I to be honest, I was quite a late learner of this. I was too accommodating for most of my clients for the longest time. and,
Yeah.
and I was doing changes way beyond the threshold that is
Yeah.
expected, and it's horrible. It does you no justice at all as a creative person, right?
I think this is
Just
very good advice
know that if
for
you can be frank with the client, yeah.
this is
Mm.
very good advice for all the freelancers, students who just graduated. Don't let the
Yeah, this is
clients take
something the
advantage of
schools
you.
won't
Mm.
teach.
Mm.
Yeah, but also I
Even if
find that
you have
yeah.
a sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, even
Even
if
go
you
ahead.
draft out the contract and understanding, they would still practice what they do and
Yeah,
demand more and demand more.
yeah,
And you, as your own artist, and you're the one handling it, have to learn to say no at some point and
yeah. And I
and ask
think
them to be.
yeah, I think in my experience as well, it's a trade-off basically. When you're beginning,
Mm-hmm.
when you're a freshie, usually you tend to be a little bit more accommodating because you have not made your
Yeah.
mark yet. Basically, you
Yeah.
need your portfolio to build up, you need your reputation to
Mm.
build up, you need your
Mm.
networking to be built up first. So it's a kind
Mm.
of trade-off to your early clients in order to
Mm-mm.
build all those things up because you're a freshie
Mm.
that you
Yeah.
give out all these extra freebies to them, but
Yeah.
after a while
Yeah.
when you know that you have settled in and you have formed the base and formed your own
Mm.
reputation and all that, which is trustworthy and
Yeah.
credible, then you have to
Mm-hmm.
cut back on the freebies and you have to
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
very clear terms and learn how to
Yeah.
negotiate because
Maybe
clients
I
will always
think
try to yeah.
I think in the early days also the students who just fresh grad to
Mm-hmm.
feel insecure also like,
Yeah.
Who am I to tell the
Correct.
client I don't want to give this to you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and also I think they've been
Yeah.
trained in a mindset of they just came
Mm-hmm.
from university and the lecturers tell them do this, do this, do that, do that. So they
Yeah.
treat
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
client
Yeah.
like the lecturers.
Yeah. Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I kena badly at
Mm,
the initial stage because I dare not even bring up the topic of discussion of salary or payments. And
mm,
I was just told what to do. I did it. In the end, I
yeah.
didn't even get paid for it.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Mm.
mean, most of us went
Mhm.
through that. It's a common occurrence. It's
Mhm.
completely
Yeah.
normal, I would say. I won't say it's right,
Mm.
but it is completely normal. So please
Yeah.
expect this to happen to
Yeah.
you when you
Mm.
graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna come from
yeah,
even the professional studios,
yeah,
Mm,
depending on how they treat you, who you
mm,
know, things like
Mm.
that.
But I
Yeah.
think most importantly is to be aware that at some point when you have built your portfolio well enough, you have to have the
Mm-hmm.
confidence to kind of cut back on this kind of stuff, lah, right? These
yeah.
Yeah.
freebies and all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
why I say it's a trade-off lah. When
Yeah.
you have
Mm.
nothing, these are things you trade off on. Your work is what you trade off on. But
Yeah.
once you build
Yeah.
that up already, okay, then you
Mm.
stop that nonsense and you
Yeah.
reclaim the kind of respectability that needs to be
Mm.
given to you lah,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on from Muhammad Hafiz Hamdan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I want to know, good evening. I want to know when you're making a story and you have too many story ideas and some of them need to be shelved, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when there's so many stuff and you shelve them, you keep them in a folder, right? Would that
Mm-hmm.
in the end be used or not? What's the
Yeah,
what's the normal thing? Yeah.
I've had ideas since growing up, years ago, and I still keep them. And you never know when they might come in useful for future projects, or it's something you want to revisit because to me personally, nothing gets trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's useful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
definitely Muhammad Hafiz Hamdan. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
it will be used later on.
Mm-hmm.
So keep them
Yeah.
in a
Uh,
folder, but don't forget them.
Yeah, I
Right.
still bring them here with me to France,
Yeah.
and I will jot them down, and I still jot them down if I have a break to think about it.
And I think this also applies both textually in terms of what stories you write down, and
Mm,
visually as well. I think
mm,
with a lot of young people, this is what I noticed recently. Whenever they draw something they don't like, students tend to like to put an X on
Or
their
they delete or they erase it.
yeah,
And I'll be
yeah,
so
Good
appalled.
already.
Oh.
Deleting is the worst thing they could do.
yeah,
And they save
yeah.
over. They don't save S, they save
Yeah.
over. And
Yeah.
I'll be like,
Ah.
no, what happened to
No,
last
I
week's
will save
work?
version A, version B, version
Yes,
C, and
yes.
the
Exactly,
dates, the
Correct.
progression.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
we always tell our students mistakes is very important. You need to see the mistake lines in order to improve on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Correct,
Otherwise,
correct.
no.
And
It's
Yeah, I always. Sorry, go
it's
ahead.
like you
go ahead,
don't know
Sandra.
how you never know how far you come until you see
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
you're
Correct.
Where you
coming from.
started from.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I
I,
always
I, and
tell
I
my
think
students, keep your first drawings in a folder. We want to
correct.
see
Ah.
how you
Yes,
progress.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
it's through that that you can see your growth. And I think there is
Mm.
a misconception of students to try and delete their errors as if they were covering their tracks so that when they show their final work, it's as if that's
Mm-mm-mm.
the first drawing they did. And there's this sense of pride to think that, oh, I was able to achieve this without first going through
Yeah,
through,
yeah.
through all that
Yeah,
iterations
yeah, yeah.
of ideas, you
Yeah.
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Yeah.
But it's you're fooling no one but yourself. You're losing out a lot
Yeah.
by not keeping your
Exactly.
previous drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the worst when students are so embarrassed that they only keep the final best works to show you. I'm like, but my job is to see
No,
everything, is to see all the
no, I
mistakes so
think.
that I can guide you. If you don't
Yeah,
show me
yeah,
the
yeah.
mistakes,
I
Yeah.
how
think
am
that's
I
the
going to
most
guide you?
interesting
Yeah.
things for
Correct.
us to see.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when we watch those making of films, you know how interesting
Yeah.
it is to see the first few sketches,
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
it
yeah.
all started. It was like
Mm.
gold, you know, it's
Mm.
gold to
Yeah.
actually look at those sketches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I understand from a student's perspective, I'm not a fantastic. I don't draw very well. Of course, in this group of
Mm-hmm.
four of us, I'm the least
Mm-hmm.
person to draw, and I do
Mm-hmm.
cringe when I look at my initial drawings. Oh my God, so hideous! I remember we went to the zoo, and then I drew this weird, like almost manic
I love that the
tigers,
most.
and I cringe. But it is important to keep those things, and just for you to
Yeah.
refer
I'm
to
still
see where
keeping it.
you
Oh
have
my goodness,
developed,
it's the best. That
yeah.
was the best drawing out of the entire
Keep
zoo
your
trip.
initial works. Don't delete it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yes, right. So also from Mama Hafiz Hamdan, which is there a position, a starting position where new grads usually start off from in the industry?
Yeah, it's internship. Depends on which department you want to work at. Let's say you want to start in pre-production as an artist or prop designer, colorist, anything, or you want to tackle scripts. There's always that step. You go under a mentor and you work the line and experience the flow, how things are done. Then from there you move on to your own position of your choice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so well answered.
Mhm,
Again, last question from Mama Hafiz Hamdan. When designing a
mhm.
character, is it true that drawing the eyes are the most important component in order to express the character's emotions?
Personally, for me, yeah, because I always start drawing with the eyes. I would maybe do a little construction of how the scale might be before starting off with the eyes, before building from the head to the body and limbs
Mm.
onward. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, it helps me gauge the expression and the attitude of the character straight away
Mm.
when doing the eyes first.
Yeah, I think also
Mhm.
like whether what shape you apply to the eye is so. I mean, with my
Mm.
experimentation,
Shape,
what shapes?
angle.
Oh, it matters
Yeah.
so much. Having a straight brow or a straight line for the upper
Mm.
eyelid straight away sets
Mm.
it off with a certain tone. If it's a rounded eye, it automatically makes it a lot
Yeah.
more cheerful. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think that helps a lot.
Even if it's a beady eye, it already
Mm,
helps quite a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
But,
thank you so much, Muhammad Hafiz Hamdan. Sorry.
Mm.
but Sandra, I notice when I see your drawings, you don't
Mhm,
necessarily always need to rely on the eyes. I find that even by the
mhm,
postures that you draw,
Mm.
I
mhm,
can really feel your character coming alive.
mhm,
Like the little clips that you had there, and then you
mhm,
were
mhm.
you were like showing yourself hunched and then moving around like ow 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 like that. So it's like really cool. Yeah. That one we don't see
Yeah.
your eyes, but I can really feel
Yeah.
the life, coming out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
With
I think yeah,
always tell the students feel how draw how you feel.
Yeah.
get your emotions on the paper.
I think that's really, really good advice. Okay.
Mhm.
A few questions here from
Mhm.
Yap Ling Hui. Okay, so first, Miss, I'm so amazed by your artwork. Okay. Do you have
Thank
any
you.
yes, shout out to Ling Hui.
Thank you.
Do you have any recommendations on drawing apps that you can share with us?
The latest trend now, I suppose, is Clip Studio Painter, which I've just recently purchased and having so much fun with it. It's very flexible for an illustrator, and now that they have tools for animators as well, I think it's a good app to play with. I know a lot of students are also trying Procreate with their iPads, and there's also everyone's been using Photoshop all this time, and it's a really decent tool to work with. So it depends on you as an artist, you can test it out and do the training apps first before deciding if you want to purchase it. And or you can look online with YouTube's for tutorials and see if this is the one to go to.
Have you
But
tried?
me personally,
Sorry, Sandra, you continue first before I.
we can just jump in. I've I've still a lot of apps to try out, to be honest. Like I want to put more focus maybe next into Toon Boom. I have Toon Boom in the initial early years, and now there's a lot of upgrades. So I would like to check out what else has been applied to it, and Blender is another one.
Mm.
Mhm.
And like
Do
you
you
mentioned earlier,
have you tried Krita? Because I think Krita is quite popular
yeah,
because it's free. I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen Critter, but I've not even had the time to even play with all of these new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Mhm.
That's true.
And there's Pencil 2D, and
Mm.
there's even TV Paints is another big one that
Oh,
a
I've
lot
not
of
heard of
schools are
that. Right.
using. Yeah, but a lot of professionals are using it in the industry, and it's supposed to be
Oh,
the
Right. It's
best.
TV
Yeah,
Paint, is it?
yeah, TV Paints for
Mm.
animation,
Right.
but I heard that the performance is really good.
Right. Right.
Wow, that's good to know. Good to know. All
Mhm.
right. What else? Same from Ling Hui, Yap Ling Hui. How can we
Mhm.
improve our drawing and sketching skills? Any tips for beginners in approaching
How to
drawing?
improve? Okay, the general rule of thumb is practice.
practice.
Always practice. But
Practice.
Yeah.
to improve, I me as a sponge, I would look up references from artists, not say specific artworks, but in general, get inspired by someone whom you feel is better than you, and if you want to improve, see if you can aim up to that level, and then move forward to the next one, and the next one,
Yeah.
slowly, step by step. If you can gauge your own skill set. If you can't draw this, learn to draw it, and then move forward from there, slowly,
Yeah.
step by step, like baby steps.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Okay.
this is something I'm training my own students on the side, knowing that they are coming from a background that has no drawing skills at all. They have to start from zero. So I can't draw this. How do I get to the next level? Learn to draw everything bit by bit. Draw a little bit of everything, not
Yeah.
just one thing that you like. Mhm,
Uh, in connection to that, she continues,
mhm,
asking
mhm,
about, well, you talk about references and all that, right? So where do
mhm.
your ideas normally come from? She's asking, from them or from yourself originally, or where?
A lot of it is on your own. You take everything from what's inside of you and then build up from there. That would be your own identity. Of course, it will be influenced by a lot of outside traits, but most of it personally is coming from myself, from my own experiences and exposure growing up, and the ideas that have influenced me all that time.
And also, I suppose,
Mm.
what you are concerned about and what do you wish to express through your artworks?
Uh, just want to give an interpretation of my own, what I see and do.
Yeah.
Do I aspire that there be a message behind it? would be nice if I given enough thought to it. But most of the time, when I draw, it's mostly to let out steam and get something out on paper so that I
Ah,
don't forget it, first and
I see.
foremost.
I think
Yeah.
also with your case, like with when we look at all of your sketches, they
Mm.
capture the everyday moments so
Mm-mm,
much, and
exactly.
you make
Mm-hmm.
like just a visit to with your mom to do her
Mm-hmm.
medical checkup. You are able to
Mm-hmm.
just kind of put that on paper and seeing the how you see the mundane, the everyday as a
Mm-hmm.
potential for a story or a narrative to be documented
Mm-hmm.
on paper
Yeah, yeah,
in visual form. That's
yeah,
so important. I think
yeah.
there is a again a kind of fallacy
Mm-hmm.
or a kind of
Mm-hmm.
very bad notion that students have that everything they want to make has to be a spectacle like the Sistine Chapel. I need to when I paint I must paint this
Or you expect
spectacular
it to
thing.
be a movie in the future,
Yeah,
you know? No.
yeah. And if that's the expectation all the time, then
Mm-hmm.
you'll be forever waiting for the eureka moment for that idea, that special
Mm-hmm.
idea to come. But
Uh-huh.
for me, even like when I'm drawing, especially now with kids and all,
Mm-hmm.
inspiration is there
Mm-hmm.
every single day. If you just open your eyes
Yeah.
and just wait,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
within minutes, you get
Uh-huh.
something. Even when
Uh-huh.
you're sitting at home watching a
Mm-hmm.
documentary or something, I
Mm-hmm.
guess you have to be open, lah. You have to
Uh-huh.
live
I
out of the
think
zone.
I think the best stories comes from things is looking at from a different perspective of so-called
Yeah,
mundane
yeah,
things. That's
Yeah.
where people
yeah.
identify with, you know.
Yeah,
Mm,
Grand
exactly.
things we
I
don't
don't.
all identify with, you know.
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah.
I, I think people don't realize that the ordinary can be something spectacular
Yes.
Yeah.
It
because
becomes
I can coin
extraordinary.
an example. Extraordinary. You are recording a moment in history,
Mm,
and
Yeah.
it becomes a souvenir for your
Correct.
future, your
Correct.
family, and people who know
Yeah,
you. And I can say, for me personally, I've know I've come to love all these sort of things when I go to a museum. And the most that intrigued me is the person who document their life
yeah,
on in a diary with drawings, and I find
Mm,
that so fascinating because and it's in a museum
yeah,
in all accounts because they treasure what has been documented at that time
mm,
and place and your
yeah,
situation and your thoughts are in there.
yeah.
yeah.
And I think all
Mhm,
the best stories and in movies or whatever that we think is like we
mhm,
placing it so high on the pedestal, what we actually
mhm,
love about it is how simple it is the stories can touch us.
mm,
Those simple
mm.
storylines that all of us can identify with. That's what make those
Exactly.
stories great, no matter what
Yeah.
setting
Yeah.
is put in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it all comes from
It
that.
touches a
Yeah,
familiarity as well.
exactly.
Correct. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of times we kind of are waiting for this strange thing or this fantastical thing to happen, and we are
Mm.
hoping that that will become the
Mm-mm.
inspiration.
Yeah.
But there's this whole
Yeah.
saying where life is stranger than fiction,
Yeah.
and just looking
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
around you in daily life, there's so much stuff going on that we tend to forget, and that
Yeah.
all these great
Mm-hmm.
masters they build their spectacular stories out of everyday things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They just
Yeah.
embellish on top of that.
Mm. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to
Mm.
come from fantasy to be a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just can come from you and your daily experiences.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And another question from Ling Hui again. Um,
Mm-hmm.
is there a point where well, she's asking, how long did it take for you to get from a beginner stage to an artist stage? So I guess you will have to sort of decide for yourself whether there was any defining moment where you actually
Mm-hmm.
realize, hey, I'm an artist now. So yeah,
And I started drawing when I was very young. So growing up from kindergarten into primary school, I was basically the artist already, even though I don't
yeah,
have a career out of it. But I was selling my sketches to fellow students and classmates. They want to buy it. So like,
mm,
hey, I can make money out of this. Maybe I am an artist. So that would be a defining moment for me,
yeah,
a eureka moment per se.
yeah.
Mm, mm,
So
mm.
and
So yeah,
I turned out to be the artsy one in school. So people would label me as that. And then I figured if I stand out as this and I love what I do, maybe I can make a career out of this. Let's see where it goes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think also to answer his questions based on what you're responding to, it's never a point, like a point in your life. I guess it's not over a day. It's like over a period of
Yeah.
time. Like for yours, you
Mm.
realized it that it's over the period of your childhood that you
Mm.
decided, oh, okay, this I like this. This is what I'm
Mhm.
going to be. And yeah, it's
Mhm.
not something that you can catch on later on in life. I mean, even if you
Yeah.
started art late, I've known of many stories of like adults who go into art later on in life. They don't
Yeah.
decide it at one point. It's
Mm.
over a period of time. Oh, maybe I could make a living with
Yeah.
this after probably months of practice and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You don't need there's no fixed starting point,
Yeah.
like you
Mm,
mentioned. So
mm,
it's
And
up to
yeah,
you.
yeah, it's up to
Yeah.
you. And I also like to add that
Mhm.
even if you don't make a career out of being a visual artist, it doesn't mean that you're not
Mhm.
an artist. Because
correct.
there are many
Yes.
people who have different careers, but the compulsion to create art is so deeply embedded in them that they create art all over the place. They just don't
Yeah.
sell it because they are
Mm.
not interested in the commercial side of it. It doesn't make
Yeah.
them any less of artists,
Artist,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
You can
It
be an
also be,
artist if you cook, if you bake, if you
exactly.
build things.
Correct.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I think people have this weird idea that an artist must be a person who can draw very well, can
Mhm.
draw from
Mhm.
memory. It's not
Mm.
necessarily so. Like I have a
Yeah.
sister, she's very artistic, specifically when it
Mhm.
comes to designing the interior of people's houses and all that. So she's the go-to
Mhm.
person, choosing the right materials, creating spaces
Mhm.
for people. She's very
Yeah.
creative that way. But most people will not think, oh, that's not creativity as we see it. But that is,
Oh.
because I
No.
would have a problem designing spaces for people. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we all have our different
Yeah.
areas of
I would.
creativity.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think that's the worst fallacy to have because
Mm,
um art is everywhere around us. The plates we
exactly.
eat with, the
Mm-hmm.
tools, the utensils, everything. It
mm,
requires a certain
mm.
amount of creation
Yep.
involved. So
Mm.
in that sense, it's art already.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And it dovetails into her next question. So Yap Ling Hui continues by asking
Mhm.
you, do you think salary is a huge factor for
Mhm.
when you started to develop as an artist in the field, or maybe even choose to get into this field? Because she says
Mhm.
that she's got some friends who have graduated from arts and illustration courses, and the first time they try to find a job is really challenging for them. So,
Mm.
how important is
I think
salary?
I think it I blame it on all the things that social media put into your mind and inkling when you start in this field that working in art you make it or break it. um, when you join in this field, the first thing you would do it for is your passion.
Mm.
You the reality bites when, of course, when you start earning. I would say, just for a reality check to everyone, you don't earn well from the get go. It depends on who you are, your network, the opportunities that come your way. That's where you build up from there. But if salary comes into play, then I say don't come into this line at all, because you're working just for the money and not for your passion. And you need passion when you create art. And
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know if
Yeah.
if you're working just for money and the
Correct.
salary comes into play, I
Mhm.
would say there are other better jobs out there. you
Correct.
know
But
Exactly.
but also I think this
yeah.
kind of applies to any field for that matter. If you don't have the
Mhm.
passion, you don't have the drive,
Yeah. Yeah.
then it
True.
won't follow
Uh-huh.
you. What
Exactly.
you could
Yeah.
be in stock exchange for all I care, but if it's just
Yeah.
another
Yeah. Yeah.
job to you, you have no fire for it, then you're gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
fail,
Exactly.
Yeah.
right?
I've had
Mhm.
colleagues or classmates in the past who would like to get into it thinking that it would be lucrative. But when they tasted a bit of the reality of what work entails and the cost, the living costs and the payments involved,
Right.
they
right.
drop out quickly from the fray, and
Yeah.
they change fields basically.
So I guess the answer to the question is really up to the individual. How
Right.
much is money actually of value to you? I mean,
Yeah.
not to knock some people's choices, but we
Yeah.
all have placed our values in very different things according
Correct.
to
Mm-mm-mm.
what we believe in our lives. There
Yeah.
are some
Yeah.
people who really need the money because of
Mm-hmm.
financial
Mm-hmm.
commitment, family commitment.
Mm-mm.
Then of course, if that's the case,
Mm-hmm.
then you might not
Mm-hmm.
have the luxury to get into
Yeah.
something that you passionately love if it doesn't pay that well, right?
Yeah.
So I think it needs to come from you. How much in
Yeah.
your life does money
Yeah.
matter, and then you
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
decide from there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some the majority of us, we would find it hard to start off with a bang.
Yeah.
It's that rarity that comes, the
Correct.
opportunity that
Yeah.
hits you, and then
Yeah.
you fly straight away,
Yeah.
and your career is all set and made for you from then on.
Mm.
That
Mm,
is very
yeah.
rare. Just
Extremely.
reality
That's
check
like
to
that's what storybooks
everyone.
and movies are made of, lah.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, not real
Yeah.
life. Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
but good question though, because it is
Mm-hmm.
a concern for many people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Especially in our Asian culture,
Yes, yes.
it's
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
thing that
Wow.
parents will always ask, and we still have students. I mean, the three of
Mm-hmm.
us are lecturers, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
we get students that are. I mean, I have got my fair share of students coming to tell me that they have to drop out the course halfway
Mm.
because they started the course already with their parents opposing them, and when
Yeah.
they find that halfway through their parents are still opposed to it,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. So yeah, they
Yeah.
do come tearing and saying that they have to leave the
Yeah.
course and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Just
Which
revisiting
yeah.
that question.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. That uh the people who start out, just do your research. Knowing what you're getting into is a
Yeah.
long ride, a long hard road ahead.
Yeah.
So you just be prepared for that. Don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
expect blossoming results from the get-go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which
Mm.
is also something that Ling Hui is concerned
Mm-hmm.
about, because her next question is about what advice, encouragement you would have to juniors who are still studying this field in drawing and also animation, because they sometimes feel frustrated and demotivated because most of their parents, as Eugene has just
Uh,
intimated, come from a more traditional mindset where artists
mm-hmm.
can't earn money. They only work for
Mm-mm.
passion. So I
Mm.
think parental and family objections to
Yeah, the
choosing a creative
support.
line, yeah,
Mm.
would be an issue. So what would be your advice in terms of encouraging them in that area?
If you love it, I encourage you to trudge on in spite of the obstacles you face. Because in my situation, I lucked out. I was the youngest in the family, so the the elders in my family have already fulfilled parental wishes. So I had the choice to go where I wanted to. Also because I think they lost faith in me. Where's this Sandra gonna go? As long as she does something, just do it. But um, I I would say, if you have the love for it, this is what sparks joy in your life. Go
Yeah.
for it.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
won't
Yeah.
regret it.
Mm-hmm.
In
Mm,
spite of
mm,
parental
mm,
obstruction or opposition,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
in the end, if you do something you love, you will be rewarded for it
Mm.
in due time. It may
Mm-hmm.
not come fast, and hopefully your parents can see that. If it's your
Yeah.
life decision, you do what you love.
Yeah.
But if I know budget constraints, limitations come into play, but do what you love.
Yeah.
I'm fully
Yeah.
on board for anyone who decides to do this and they go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, adding to that also, I mean,
Mhm,
quite recently, though with the current pandemic,
mhm.
the economy is of course slowed down.
Yeah, of
You
course.
have some studios that are
Mhm,
kind of trying to limit the amount of people, but it is
mhm.
still nonetheless an economy that's still moving. fortunately. And
Um,
I
I
think
think
quite recently, even last year during the creative conference, we had quite a few
mm,
streamers, creative
mhm,
organized by MDEC. We had quite a few streamers from Netflix and
mhm,
some a few other networks. They actually said
mhm,
that it's one area, animation and illustration is one area that's still actually moving. And because of
mhm,
how broad and how many networks there are right now,
mhm.
we actually have more demand for content. So I guess I
Yeah,
feel that there are still parents that are quite traditional, but I'm starting to feel that a lot
uh,
of them are actually open to it because they do see the amount of content that's
mm,
needed on
uh,
YouTube and on Netflix, where it's
yeah.
supposed to before it's kind of limited, right?
Yeah,
I
because
would also
actually,
blame the traditional mindset. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
Sorry,
look at
Claire.
the even the COVID situation now, right? And what are we doing? We are stuck at home, right? So what
Yeah.
do we do? We eat, so we order food. So food industry is still there. Then
Yeah.
what else do we
Mm,
need? Basic stuff like medical things, so that is still there.
mm,
And we need
Yeah.
to watch
mm.
TV and entertain ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
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 Otherwise, we
yeah.
go
for our
crazy.
mental health.
Yeah.
Yes,
If
we
we
need
don't have that, we
content.
Yeah,
go crazy, right? So yeah,
and I would
so
say,
people who
that,
do movies,
mhm,
animation, I
yeah.
think it will still
Mm.
be there, you know.
Yeah.
These people
Yeah.
will still be
There's
needed.
always a demand for art in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everyone can do it, and it's a niche market.
Mm.
If you have the talent, you can do it. Even the phone apps, you need art for that. You need
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
graphics, you need animation, you need icons, you need your emoticons, you need more
Yeah.
Yeah,
choices of
yeah.
emoticons and
Yeah.
gifs.
Like
So
sometimes,
the
when you're feeling
mm,
down and someone sends this funny COVID thing, some graphic stuff,
mhm,
and then it makes everyone laugh.
mhm.
You need things like that, or
Yeah,
else you
yeah,
go
Mm.
yeah, yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
Mm.
exactly. I
So
if
yeah,
parents think this is as the old-fashioned mindset that as an artist you just go to art gallery, that's an artist. It doesn't involve any other part of your life.
Yeah.
mhm,
You're
No,
starving and
art
then
is
you
like I said,
know,
is everywhere. We
I
need artists
I
yeah,
think
for every
the
industry.
worst kind of mentality that people have
Yeah.
is that when you, especially in Malaysia,
Mm,
when you want to be an artist, you end up on Petaling Street
mm.
as one of those sketch artists by the side of the road.
Exactly.
That's their
mhm,
artist. They
Yeah.
have no idea
I
what's
For
yeah,
us artists is who makes the money now? YouTubers.
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
correct. You see.
You just
Uh-huh.
post something online and get your views and you get a paycheck every
Correct,
week.
yeah.
correct, correct.
But I think the
Yeah.
reality is like this, okay? Because we've been in the teaching line for quite some time, right? And in the
Mhm,
past, there will only be one or two students who register to study animation. Now there are more and more
mhm.
students studying animation, which shows that the mindset of the parents are also changing, that
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can
yeah,
make
Mhm.
money in this field.
Yeah.
yeah.
So don't be afraid. If
Yeah.
you really want to do it,
Yeah.
pursue it, go for it. But you
Yeah.
must love it. If you don't
Yes.
love
Yeah.
anything, you
Yeah.
cannot
Mm.
continue with it. Like
Um,
we mentioned
you
earlier, in any line, if you don't love it,
yeah.
you cannot continue with it. It's
Yeah.
really, really hard. Okay?
I know some parents might object to the fact because art schools are blooming expensive. But
Mhm,
in this day and age, there are free softwares, there are
yeah.
free classes you can get on board and train yourself at home. It
True.
doesn't have to cost a penny. You just need a
Exactly.
phone or you need
Yeah.
an iPad. That's it. And that's already what your
Yeah.
parents have. You
Yeah.
can borrow from them.
Yeah. And
um,
like
yeah, just
most,
chime in.
yeah, so for most of these creative industries, right, especially visual
Mm,
arts and design and all that, actually your degrees don't matter
mm,
as much as your portfolio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
portfolio.
yes,
it
Most
doesn't
yes.
matter what
important.
you started off studying and what you
Mm,
graduated
mm,
as. You can be an
mm.
accountant for all
Mm,
anybody
Yeah,
cares.
yeah,
But if
yeah,
you
yeah,
have slowly used all these free resources, YouTube
yeah,
tutorials, this and that to build up
yeah.
your portfolio at home, when you take that
Mm-hmm.
portfolio out to go look for jobs,
Mm-mm-mm.
that's what they'll be looking at, not your
correct,
degrees.
Uh,
correct.
So you actually don't
um,
even need us, basically. You
uh,
don't need us,
yeah.
seriously,
So,
to get an art job, right?
yeah,
Yeah, you need you.
Ling, yeah, Ling Hui.
Mhm.
I come from a background where I had the opportunity to get a degree and study overseas as what your parents want, but I chose not to because I decided I want to work locally. If I were to go overseas, I wouldn't come back to Malaysia. So I I'm in a unique position whereby I started from ground zero and educated myself with whatever I had. I did not own a computer until I was 27. I had to pay it myself. other than that, I was borrowing, not stealing. So, and learned through libraries, whatever that was available.
Yeah.
Even though at that time,
Mhm,
I had one parent growing up during that stage.
mhm.
So financially, we were strapped, even though there were means for me to move forward and do what parents wanted. But no, I went the other route and managed to make a living for myself in this
Mhm.
fashion where I am
Yeah.
now.
So
I mean,
basically, it's about how much do you want it? That
yeah.
is the
Yeah,
issue.
exactly.
Yeah.
Correct, correct. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, like Sandra, even when you and I, we both kind of interviewed people before in their jobs for their jobs, and
Mhm.
when have we ever asked like, can we know your CGPA for your course? It's like we never. Well, I mean, yeah, we do say that like, okay, submit
Mhm.
your degree or your diploma, but we never actually look at them. We
Not
will
in this line.
not this
Yeah.
line.
GPA
No.
Yeah.
only if you want to
No.
do a master's or PhD, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Only if you want to
Yeah,
pursue further
if you're in the
studies.
medical career line, yeah, you need those
Yeah.
credentials.
Yeah.
But in
Mm.
art, it's like Joe said, it's your portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
correct, correct.
actually, there should be nothing stopping you. If you want
Mm.
it
Yeah.
badly enough, you have
Mm,
all sorts of free resources out there. You don't even
mm,
need to spend your parents' money if they are so
mm.
objecting to it, right?
No.
So you just
Mm-mm.
go for it. If that's really your passion, that's what you owe to yourself, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah, take it from us.
Okay. So another question here from a Su Ting Leong. I really like your work.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you so
yay!
much,
But
Sue.
yeah, I would like to ask though, what do you think of copyrights? If somebody used your work on TikTok, what would you do? Is it difficult? Oh, this is another question. So the TikTok one first and the copyright.
Mm-mm.
Mm,
Um, Jumping into copyright first.
mm,
I've had instances of people stealing my art and utilizing it for their own purpose and um, selling it online without telling me things like that. And of course, I would be offended. Uh, we always that was it's a personal part of us that was stolen,
Yes.
you
Mm.
know.
Mm.
And how do I deal with it? Thankfully, at times when these were detected, I had friends, people who know my work, found it out to me,
mhm.
even though it was in another country,
Yeah.
and they were telling me somebody's selling this at the shop, and it's your artwork. We recognize it, so we try to stop them, get a person to go there and tell them please stop it. Otherwise, we would invoke the law on them or something. Sometimes it's out of your hands. You can't control it. And, you
Mm.
know, with social media,
Yeah.
all, I'm afraid to say it's very rampant.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you deal with it by case, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
And if it was on TikTok or something, following the next question, firstly, I would feel, hey, somebody thinks my artwork is valid enough to put it on social media. Maybe it's
Exactly.
free promo for myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind it so much, but I would appreciate that they ask first before using.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I think like using your work, putting up your work and crediting you for it makes a lot of
Mm.
difference. But using
A
it
lot
for,
of
yeah,
difference.
Yeah.
and I think
Hmm.
to help with all this, sometimes when we have friends who, I mean, in the artist community, even sometimes we get a friend who is kind of posting stuff and saying that my work got plagiarized and used
Mm-mm.
commercially somewhere.
Mm-mm.
I think it's
Mm.
important to support your friend by actually reposting it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and calling it out on the
Mm-mm.
person. You know, I
Mm-mm.
mean, for
Mm-hmm.
all expenses, to shame the person who actually committed that
Yeah.
crime, so that they are at least
Yeah.
aware. They would think twice, even
Mm.
though it's out of your
Yeah.
hands, to actually think twice
Yeah.
about doing it again.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
think we in the art community need to protect each other
Yeah,
and help
yeah,
out each other.
yeah.
That's the only way we do it,
Correct.
basically, because we've already seen cases whereby big brands are stealing artists' work and not
Correct.
crediting them
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
yeah,
paying.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's up to the artists themselves to sound out the alarm
Mm.
to the
Mm.
Yeah.
consumers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
to
I think
protect
that's
each other.
really important because now you guys live in the world of
Mhm.
social media where
Yeah.
it
Mm-mm.
gives you guys the voice and the
Mm.
ability to band together and fight
Mm-mm.
against the establishment, for what is
Yeah.
going on.
Mm.
Because previously, before social media, when the big guys come down on you, you have no protection whatsoever,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So you just have to
Yeah.
deal with it, take your knocks, and just go on, right? But this time
Yeah.
round, all of you
Unfortunately.
have a voice, so use it,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you keep
Yeah.
posting it, people will know that it's your work. So if they see it somewhere
Mm.
else, then they recognize, hey, that's not your work, that belongs
Yeah.
to someone else,
Yeah.
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 Which brings to the other question that actually some students or some of the younger artists they are so afraid of posting up their work, but I find that there is benefit in posting up your work because you make your work public. Yes, there is the danger of being plagiarized, but
Mm.
at the same time you're making your work public, people recognize it and people will be able to help you
Yeah.
catch these people when
Yeah.
it does get plagiarized. I think the
Mhm.
worst thing is actually to keep your artwork kind of secret and
Yeah.
protected, that not having anyone actually look at it at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's just a matter of we have to get used to the idea that these things will happen.
Mm.
So you
Yes.
decide when it does happen to you, what are
Mm.
you going to do
Mm.
about it?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
Mm-mm.
not going to be something surprising. It should not be,
Mm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. You
So
can
yeah.
take steps to protect your artwork by watermarking it or things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. That
But
could be one.
yeah,
Yep.
but you can only go so far because people will always find a way to
Yeah.
Yeah.
steal if they want
Correct.
to.
Correct. Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So there is a comment here that is not a question. Senior Romanova, what a hero!
Thank you.
Yay!
Yeah. Thank you, Sush. Got your message.
All right. So that's a fan right there. Okay. And then Eng Ru Xuan. Eng Ru Xuan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I really like your drawing. May I know what drawing tool software do you prefer to use?
Right now, I always go back to the simple paper and pencil, to be honest, if I had the
Mm,
choice. But if it's a digital tool, right now I'm loving Clip Studio Paint, to be honest, because there's so much options you can use, and the cheat modes help to speed up your artwork. I would
Mm.
say,
mhm.
yeah, that's
Okay.
one. Yeah.
All right.
Eugene, do you still prefer the pen and paper, or have you gotten like you
Um,
prefer digital now?
to be honest, well, I think that question was posted to me also during my session,
Mm.
and I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
the I really am a pen and paper kind of person because that's where I
Mm,
learned to draw, and a lot of
mm,
good memories
mm,
as a kid drawing
Yeah.
actually goes back to that. Whereas with the only time I actually do digital work is when it's for a client because it's easier to change.
Yeah.
Whereas if I really wanted something like I want to get the satisfaction out of drawing,
Yeah.
I like the pen and paper medium. And right now, recently, I'm going into oil paints and watercolors, and I'm a very physical medium person. I love
yeah,
exploring that kind of stuff and mixed media.
You
So
need the tactile connection
yes,
to
just
yeah,
the
just
yeah,
the
yeah.
feel of the paper, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
All
Eh,
of us do.
it's
You know,
crazy.
when
Yeah.
Just
digital cameras came into being, I was like, no, but I'm interested, but at the same time, no. But,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so it's like we do straddle both. We
yeah.
we
Mm,
we love the old school stuff, the tactile feel,
yeah.
and
Mm, mm, mm,
but
mm.
there's this whole bit of romance of what we grew up with, right? And
Yeah,
we will
Yeah.
never let go of
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Digital media can never replace. But
correct.
at the same
Mm-mm.
time, we love all these
Mm-mm.
techy tools,
Mm.
and we
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
exploring these things as well.
Mm,
So we
Yeah.
kind of like love both worlds at once, and
Mm.
I think we are like living the best times of our
I
life.
think we just use the
Yeah,
software
Yeah.
to enhance the stuff we like to draw
Mm.
anyway,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
So
yeah.
Eugene, that
yeah.
publication you did for your daughter, that was hand drawn
That
everything,
was hand drawn.
and
That
you
was
scanned in.
completely
that was
hand
for
drawn.
Inktober, right? Inktober,
Yes,
right?
Mm.
Yeah,
correct. That was
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
completely hand drawn on. I used a marker which is mangaka, which is a brush pen, and for
Mm.
the more dense, like wider areas, I used Indian ink and brush
mm,
because I
Oh
wasn't
la
about to
la.
use my pen to color
Yeah.
the large
yeah,
areas. I would
There's There's no control Z for this stuff.
Yeah.
You cannot undo
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
your
But
mistakes.
Cannot command
correct,
Z, Z, Z.
Yeah.
correct.
I learned those. I
Um,
love brush pens as well. I love
correct.
India ink, China ink, whatever you call
and,
it.
and right now I'm trying to get how to use those tip pens, those felt tip pens, where not felt tip, the dip pens,
Mm.
right?
Ah, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I
yes.
Mm-mm.
because I like how calligraphy is,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
but I have no control over them yet. But it's something that
Mm.
I'm trying to delve into. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
But
yeah,
that's the fun part, right? The lack of control. So you
yeah,
kind
correct.
of let the
Mm. Mm.
materials
Mm.
go where they wish, that sort of thing. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
Mhm.
yes. And quite recently, my sister got us a 3D pen. And
yeah. I
that's
saw that.
another tool that I'm like, wow, oh
Yeah.
wow, the amount of stuff I can do with this. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, how can I merge this with oil paint? That would be quite interesting, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another one last question here. I mean, for this section later on, there's another. But it's by anonymous, right? So, good afternoon, Miss. May I know what
Mm.
your opinion is on techniques, using learning techniques in the process of creating art? Would you consider that this is a restricting,
Mm.
that limit people's self-expression, just to accommodate getting the aesthetics right, or do you think it's actually a way to make your work
Mhm.
improve and make it better? Yeah, so that's it.
Mm.
Mm.
I suppose the traditional techniques that we were educated with helps as a baseline to
Yeah,
start from, and everyone would apply it at one stage in their life just to get a
fundamentals.
feel and
Yeah,
taste of the medium.
yeah,
Yeah, but it shouldn't limit you in any sense if you're creating something. You can try
yeah,
and use anything to create.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
even if you want to try another technique or go another with another theory you had, you want to try and experiment with, by all means. I don't think it inhibits the artist
Mm.
in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form.
Correct.
Mhm.
It's something nice as a foundation,
Correct.
but
Yeah.
that's about it. And it's
Yeah.
still used to this day. And I think a lot of people fly from it and do
Yeah.
it well.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
yeah,
Because
as an
I,
artist, we always want to explore and try new things.
yeah, because I think that you need to start from the basic technical expertise.
Um,
You can like
yeah.
go further, but
Mm,
all artists who starts from the technical part always feel they are limited.
mm,
They will always
yeah.
want to go further. So
Mm-hmm.
mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think it will ever limit anyone if you start from the learning how to technically improve your skills. From that, definitely you
Mm,
want to explore other things. Yeah.
Correct.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
It's just something for us to know. Yeah. Because it's something new to us. Oh, where do I
And
start? You
I
always start
Yeah.
think
from
with
your foundation.
and with each artist, I think there is, because we're probably taught by different mentors or lecturers or
Mm,
teachers.
Yeah.
They all have their own individual style that may have
mm,
been an amalgamation of different trainers and artists. And that's why I think
mm,
for me, I personally always tell my students that I can give you my technique, but I would never would want to expect you to follow it wholesale. I would
yeah.
hope that you
Impose
do.
it.
Correct. Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
and I find it horrible that it come to my knowledge that other lecturers do impose their
They
techniques.
do. They do.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
why? Why would you want to do that? I
Yeah.
mean, unless they want
Yeah.
a very specific output, the reason of imposing is so that
Mm,
they learn a certain foundation, then it's
yeah.
fine.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
would never
Yeah.
want the student to kind of stick to one technique, because you kind of
Mm,
develop it over time and then you
mm,
make
mm, mm.
something else that is yours. So it
Yeah.
should
You
never
tweak it
be.
as you
Yeah,
go,
correct,
whatever
correct.
suits you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I think there is a difference between technique and process.
Mm.
When
Yeah.
when educators teach, what they're trying to teach you is the process. So
Yeah.
you
Yes.
process your work from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4,
Mm-mm.
but the
Mm,
techniques that they would also impart to you, those are just your
mm.
foundation. You
Mm.
can choose
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
continue with it, you can choose to modify
However you
it.
want to apply it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 And I would say that the only limitation that anyone would ever have is it will always come from yourself.
Mm-mm.
Whatever you say you
Exactly.
cannot do, that's what you won't do,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Correct.
Yeah.
whatever you think that, oh, I don't have any other way to do this except by using this technique. That's the
Yeah.
only limitation you would have,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's up
right?
to the individual. You
Yeah,
are
Correct.
your own limitation.
yeah.
And everyone kind of perceives things differently. Like even digitally painting, I think you know Bobby Chiu, right? The artist Bobby Chiu,
Yeah,
Sandra.
Bobby
Uh-huh.
Chiu.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
everyone knows him.
a digital artist that paints. He likes to paint in value first, so he paints an item in terms of value, black and white, and then he applies the color later on with overlay in Photoshop and all that. I can't for
Mm.
the life of me do that. I've tried it a few times. I just have to get myself to paint with local colors of the objects first, and then
Uh-huh.
apply the shadow and the highlight later
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
So
and then adjust from there.
I'll adjust from there. But the
Yeah.
thing is his work comes out always there is a way his work looks, where all the values are
Mm-mm.
just spot on. And that's
Mm-mm.
because simply because of his process.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's
Mm-mm.
it's quite it's all up to you at the end of the day, as long as you understand what your process is,
Yeah.
experiment with
Yeah.
different ones lah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, for
Yeah.
those
What
of you
works?
who are wondering what local colors are, local colors.
Yeah.
Local colors just means like a skin tone, you paint skin tone.
Naturals.
Yeah, the
Like
naturals.
Natural
yeah,
colors.
the
Yeah.
leaf, you paint it green, the sky you paint it blue. Okay, that's local color.
Mm.
We had to explain local colors doesn't mean
Yes, yes.
tropical
It's not
Malaysian
a it's not
colors.
a common sort of term.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Okay.
continue, Joanne.
A good
Uh,
one, Claire.
the So we finished the ones that you haven't addressed yet, right? So Sandra, now we're moving back to the ones that you've already prepared, right? So let's go through it together, right? So
Mhm.
this one I think is anonymous as well because I don't see a name. So hi Sandra, I really love your work. I have two questions here. What's the most important quality or qualities in a person that they need to have in order to excel in the animation industry? So that's the first question you
Okay.
addressed. Yeah.
First thing, knowing that you're coming into a field that is very demanding and time consuming, energy, brain, everything, you need perseverance and drive to always want to deliver the best results in any job you work on. Quality, quality control for me is the key factor by the end of the day. Another quality that's good to have is never stop learning,
Mhm.
constantly upgrading your skills and keeping track of what's happening out there while still working the line. So, working and learning at the same time, those are two qualities you need to have. Thirdly, is I would say very crucial as well because you're always constantly working under severe pressure. So, ability to handle intense pressure is a good thing to have while working in this field.
Mm.
So, this is one way you can keep up the momentum without losing productivity.
Mhm.
So yeah, these three key factors.
Okay. Right. Those
Mhm.
are all very important points, actually. The
Mhm.
second question from this anonymous questioner. What's your advice for fresh grads who are planning to enter the animation industry? So it's kind of related to what you've already discussed, but
Yeah.
let's
Mhm.
go.
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do you have anything more to
Um,
add to that?
we always before you jump into anything, always do your research and homework before jumping in and know what you're getting into because if you just jump into it without realizing what you're getting into, the reality is gonna hit you very hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
once you
Culture
do
shock.
the work itself. Yeah. um, yeah. Realize from the get go that it's not an easy job. Prepare yourself, research before jumping in.
Mm.
It's lifelong commitments, it's long hours. No one is truly seasoned for this animation industry until they
Correct.
reach 40. That is the general rule of thumb.
Mm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
not really good at what you do until you reach 40.
Exactly.
So I would advise you take time off to prepare
Mm.
your skill sets, understand the softwares you need, prepare your workstation to do the work that needs to be done. And finally, one thing that I find that is lacking in some students is they don't know enough of the general knowledge to do this work. They think you just need to learn animation and you're good to go. But no, I find it helps if you know a bit of everything that you can apply to the work you do. Because
Yeah.
animation, at the end of the day, we're creating materials for people, consumers to absorb. And it could be educational. So you need to know your facts in your
Yeah.
details.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to bring forward this product to the consumer,
Mm.
it should not be a fly by night thing.
True.
Right.
By the end of
Right.
the day,
Yeah.
you can't change facts, you know,
Yeah.
Agreed.
especially when you're dealing with educational programs or children's content.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
even if it's not educational, you are creating a product that needs to be
Mm.
believable to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It needs to be
Correct.
relatable to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
only concerned with your own small circle, it's
Mm-mm.
not going to reach out to the
It's not
broader audience.
enriching. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
Correct.
enriching it.
Correct.
Even if you make a music video, you think, oh, I just need to know the music and lyrics. But no, what is the
No.
elements inside
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
put in?
And there's so much. I mean, a lot of I don't know, with a lot of students that I know of now, it's
Mhm.
they join. I don't know. For me, I feel that I have an added advantage because when I fell in love with illustration,
Mm.
not because or I fell in love with animation and illustration, not because I like to watch cartoons so much, but
Mm.
because I could tell stories. And for
Exactly.
me, because also I didn't learn to draw from cartoons. That's the thing.
Mm.
My favorite books that I had when I was a child were eyewitness encyclopedias that my
Mhm.
sister and my parents were,
Ah.
and Usborne, Usborne, they have this spotter's guide,
Mm.
and
Ah.
it's like
Yeah.
I got them from this like a second-hand bookstore, and I still have them with
Mm.
me now. This
And they
small,
come in
small
sets.
correct, small pocket
Yeah.
size one where you go out, and these are all European, so none of these birds are ever here.
Mhm.
So you can
Mm-mm.
go out. But I learned to draw from them, and I learned to draw from
Mm.
natural history illustrations, and I
Mhm.
love
Mm.
plants and animals, and I really just relish in the knowledge of that. I love watching documentaries and stuff, and I
Mm.
find that that really helps with, like for me in my design, like when I'm designing something, I know, oh, this animal works, so I can pull from this library of these
Mm.
animals,
Mhm.
which is why Terrell Witchlatch, which I mentioned during my section, is one of my favorite
Yeah.
artists because she
Oh, I
designs
love Tara
animal.
Whitlash.
Correct, right? She
Yeah.
started off as a zoologist drawing dead animals, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
creature she designs for Star Wars is a functional but fictional animal.
Anatomically believable.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
She knows exactly where she could name you every part.
Mm.
And if you break her whole drawings down, you know she would draw the Rancor, this strange fictional creature
Mm-mm.
in Star Wars, and she could tell you where the
Mm.
metacarpals are, where the lumbar region is,
Mm.
because she looks at it as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
real animal,
Yeah.
and it becomes so
Mm.
believable that you find like, can this thing really exist? And I think the same thing is with the designers of the creatures in Avatar, right?
Yeah.
So most students would think
Mhm.
that, why would I want to know this kind of stuff, And some of
Mm.
them don't even want to learn about history of art. And when
Mhm.
they talk to, do you know this? Oh no, we want to do this production that has this Van Gogh influence. Like, who is it? Van Gogh, Van Gogh, like, it becomes
แม่โก้เลย
really
ค่ะแม่โก้
Van
อ่ะ
Gogh. And it becomes really really heart wrenching when
Yeah.
you get people who think that they just want to be
Mm.
in that one world and not
Mhm.
expand beyond that.
Yeah.
Not only in the design of the character, but you must also be able to imagine what kind of environment this creature be living in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a
Mm.
cold climate, hot climate, Do they live in the
Yeah.
water,
A lot of thought
partially
process.
on land,
Mhm.
So
Correct.
that whole thing makes it interesting. You're creating this
Yeah.
totally new world, all just
You're making a
your
believable world end of the
illustration.
day.
Yeah.
Mm, mm,
Mhm.
mm.
So
Yeah.
you're actually a creator. You're like
Yeah.
Yeah.
almost like
Mm.
a
True.
demigod.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Eng Meng Hui asks, do you ever get bored with animating or drawing because constantly doing the same thing over and over again? Maybe sometimes you even lack inspiration. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, we touched on this before, and I would
Yeah.
reiterate, I don't
Yeah.
give myself the luxury of feeling bored because
Yeah.
I love multitasking and
Yeah.
I always fill myself with so many projects that I don't
Mm.
get bored easily. If
Yeah.
I do get burnt out and blocked in one project, I would just move on to the next and refresh and retune my body and mind and soul. and then
Yeah.
return back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have many friends who claim they do get bored, but I can never understand that.
Why?
Yeah,
Mhm.
because
I
this,
think
You
the
have
four,
time to get bored.
yeah,
I think
it's
the
not,
four of us never ever get bored with anything.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like how?
Uh-huh.
it's not even about time. It's about there are so many things out there to get inspired by. How
Yeah.
do you even get
Um,
bored by
And
anything?
Mm.
even
I
if you're
know
not doing
boredom
things all the
comes.
time, you don't need to get bored
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
anything.
You might get bored if you do one job and do that job every day. So
Yeah,
that's why
Yeah.
I
that
say
kills it.
multitasking.
That kills
Yeah,
Yeah.
it.
but if you're learning something all the time, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you never get bored.
Mm-mm.
You know?
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
So
Mm.
going on, he also asked, can you share with us some tips on how you stick to your job?
Mm. If you have this problem, let's just say you are assigned something you need to do and get it done at a certain stage.
Mhm.
Um, how do you keep focus? Find something that triggers an inspiration. You could falter if you do experience burnout at some stage. So I'd say um, best to take a step back and
Mhm.
Yeah.
look at it and what if how can you do this job without draining? It's all depend on the individual by the end of the day.
Yeah.
What why do you deviate or get out of focus,
Mm.
and how do you stick back to it? Just for me, I stick to it because I love to do it.
Mhm.
That's passion driving me to stick to it. If
Mhm.
I falter, if I do a job that I'm assigned that I don't like, then find something uh, amusing while doing it. You know,
Mhm.
no job is ever that boring. For me, I treat it as an art form. So if I need to stack bricks up, but how do I make it fun for myself to stack bricks?
Mhm.
Find the entertainment or value from doing that job, and then that's what will keep you going.
Yep.
But adding to that also, Sandra, I think
Mhm.
it's probably important for this guy who is asking the question when he goes to look for a job or a company
Mm,
that he should do a bit of background search on the type of jobs they do. Like
Mhm.
for
mm,
you, I mean, I know that you are attached with Giggle Garage and your personality and Giggle Garage is kind of like it's such a nice synergy
mm,
when it comes to the projects that you're doing and the personality of you and the company should match. And I think if any artist or animator, they should kind of research a little bit of the background of
yeah,
the company so
yeah.
that they know the
Know their
kind of
culture.
or at least
Yeah.
know who the art directors are so that you know
Mm, mm,
what kind of work they
mm,
like.
mm,
I think
mm.
that probably would help so that
It
you are
would help.
constantly doing projects that you like rather
Mm.
than
Yep.
But
finding it a kind of like a bore after a while.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not laborious. But I
Mm.
would say if you had the choice, then that is a luxury.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
A lot of people by the end of the day they need a job just for the sake of
Correct,
having a job, and
correct.
they need to do things that they don't like.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I would say try and work your way depending on who you are, what you love to do. Find something fascinating in the job, and what motivates you is how it will help you grow.
Yeah.
Just take it on,
Yeah.
and if anything, it's for self growth.
Yeah. True.
Hmm.
True.
Hmm.
Right. So very good advice for that.
Hmm.
Lu Qingman's asking, hi, thank you for sharing. May
Yeah.
I know whether, oh, this is
This one we
something,
already covered, right? The
yeah,
plagiarism.
Yeah.
So I think
yeah,
we're talking about
plagiarism and all that.
copyright.
So
Yeah.
maybe we move on from there,
Yes.
Hmm.
right?
Next
Uh,
one.
so this as well we covered in the discussion. Do you
Idea
get ideas,
inspiration.
inspiration from other artists? Any
Hmm.
recommendations? Which artists you prefer most? Maybe you can just drop a few names here. In
Yeah.
terms of the artists you
Yeah,
prefer.
I mentioned there was a lot to say, but on the
Mm.
top of my head, I love Juanyo Guanedo, Felix Delap, Claire Wendling, Walter Manet. I'm sorry if I mangled your names. Koji Morimoto, Fabian Mans. I love Bruce Tim like, and Sean Galloway. Oh, love him since Demon Art. And who doesn't know Junji Kim and
Oh,
Rick and
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah,
They're like top of their game.
Mm.
that's a very illustrious list right there. Okay,
Mm.
so Kong Yok Man asks, do
Mhm.
you share your ideas creation to most people around you? I think Eugene, you addressed this.
Yeah, I addressed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
So yeah, if you look at if you watch the recordings of the actual presentation, Sandra would already have addressed this together with Eugene.
Mhm.
Right. So Kai Yang Yu, do you have times when you get into a bad mood and you feel stressed while creating your works?
Mhm.
How do you deal with this?
Mhm.
Mm,
Um, yeah, if I'm in a fog, I go off to do other things first and take a breather before returning back to the job. Um, one thing that keeps me from falling into a fog or a bad mood is keeping myself, if there's a term for it, overly occupied, so that
mm,
I don't have the luxury to be in a fog,
Mhm.
and
mhm,
keep doing it passionately on all the jobs that I do helps me to stay focused and productive at every given time.
mhm.
You have no time to be in a bad mood.
Yeah.
You give yourself so much distractions by the end of the
Yeah.
day, and
Yeah, that's
you
true.
recover swiftly, and you don't brood over that problem for 3 days and
Yeah.
not do anything.
So what are the
So
things that
I
you do to get out of that state? Do you what, go gardening or
uh,
watch a movie,
yeah, yeah, I would
read a book?
constantly, firstly, is switch on all my sound bites, bombard myself with everything that can distract me.
Mm.
Honestly, I keep three three sound bites playing at the same time.
Whoa.
So my mind is occupied, my head is not out of the space. And I would do other things. I would go cook, do chores, get out of the station and look at things and then come back to it.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay. All right. There's a special question here which I will leave for the last because it's the best question of all. Okay, so we skip that, and then we go to Ng Meng Hui again. Right. May I know how long it usually takes to complete a project? So you already also addressed this
Uh,
during the live
Mhm, mhm,
session.
mhm.
Do you want
Yeah.
to also reiterate or skip?
Yeah. You can quickly reiterate that
Yeah.
in a general practice, it
Mm-hmm.
could take between 1 or 1.5 year, and if you're working on a feature, should be around 3 years. But
Mm-hmm.
I have known for some projects that took between 9 to 10 years, and it all depends on the budget allotted for that project.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this is not an industry for people who want instant gratification. You cannot be in here,
cannot.
right? It's a
And
long
we
term.
do
It's a
have that. It's
marathon.
called advertising. Instant. Oh,
Oh,
Of which
trans.
deadline was yesterday.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
tell that's instant, but is no gratification at all.
No,
Trust
yeah.
no.
me.
No
Okay.
gratification. A lot of
No.
work.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, but Sandra, that's also the timeline that you've just mentioned is when a project is green light, right? We've got a project. I mean,
Mm,
the one we've been working on,
yeah,
it's like almost a decade. Is it a decade old? I don't know that idea.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
So
you mean that pitch we worked on?
yeah, the pitch we worked on,
That was that was something I had going on for about 6 7 years ago,
right?
and finally it's found a platform to sound out. And
Yeah, right,
yeah,
right. And still, it's still going on, right? So it's a little baby of yours that is still going
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah.
say the idea from years ago could still have value up to
Correct,
a certain
correct.
point.
Yeah,
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 depending on the opportunities given.
Yeah.
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 Okay. The next question from Yang Kai Ting. You have also touched on this, but let's see if you want
Mhm.
to skip or continue. Hi, thank you for sharing. I would like to ask, where do you usually get inspiration for your drawing when you lack inspiration?
I would keep myself surrounded by a lot of materials that I love, everything, every genre field. I would not stick to just creative inspirations, me personally. I would explore every facet and fields, subject matter. I wouldn't keep to art museums and artists or gamers or anything. I would go out. Like I said during the presentation, I love keeping myself abreast with economy, things like social issues, agriculture, medicine, history, geography, science, culture, everything. Just having that wide scope it takes you out of your comfort zone, and when you need to go back and explore this subject in a future date for a certain project per se, it would be less challenging for you if you know a little bit of everything.
Mhm. Okay.
So
Yeah,
again, inspiration and what helps, what doesn't help. It
exactly.
all ties in for in my little habits.
Yep. And then
Mhm.
Yang Kaiting continues. How did you discover your own
Mm.
drawing style?
Yeah. Something this is something I didn't really touch on in the presentation, so let's
Mhm.
go into that.
Yeah.
I grew up with a diet of Western products on TV and publications, mostly British European stuff, and maybe sometimes from the United States. So growing up, I fell in love with narratives and visual interpretations of that subject. From example, you can see straight away I have a Disney style, which is a Disney artist that I'm influenced by, the Nine Old Men back then. I love materials from Warner Brothers, King Syndicate, the old comics from Beano, Topper,
Yes.
Dandy, yeah, Dennis the
Oh,
Menace,
been than
Happy
this one.
Harmonies,
Long
yeah,
time ago.
Hairless and Bachelor. All these are nostalgic words for us, and
Yes.
nostalgic names: Tex Avery, Chuck Jones. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of this
Yep. Yep. Yep.
influenced my style growing up.
Mhm. Oh,
So the only Asian one I had growing up for me is Osamu Tezuka, that it influenced my style in a certain way.
Mm.
I love Kimber the White Lion, so I drew that a lot when I was growing up.
Ah, yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Tezuka. Mm.
yeah,
Great. I think
yeah.
that covers loads of stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question from Tan Qian Ni. Hello. Are there any challenges that you face during the progression of your career? I think. Yeah.
Yeah. We mentioned the blank canvas as being daunting during the presentation. That
Yeah.
is always the big scary moment for most artists, I find. The
Writers
challenges
as
for me
well.
would be to
Yeah.
draw something unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Like we touched on this, drawing backgrounds is something I'm fearful about. Even coloring. My twin Deborah was always a better colorist than me. She would color those children's coloring books much better than
Mhm,
me.
mm.
So
Mhm.
I was always intimidated by that. And architecture and vehicles.
Mm.
So that's why I always say try and practice drawing a little bit of everything so you
Yeah.
can feel a certain form of comfort when doing it.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay. And Wu Yet Yi wants
Mhm.
to ask, how do you brainstorm? Where do you get the ideas for the characters that you draw? Uh, she says, I learned 2D animation before, but I always lack
Mm-mm.
ideas. So
Ah,
yeah.
mm. That's we we do R&D because we need to build up that personal library in our head to fall back on when we're lacking ideas.
Research and
So I
development.
would say,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Basically, just R&D.
Yeah.
Start prepping your own personal logs, libraries, and reference materials to fall back on when you're stuck. I would also keep video clips of any subject and I source them. If I have free time, I would just build it up, keep building, building, building. That's why I say you never have time to be bored. You need
Mm.
to prepare yourself always. And whatever even sounds, music that I listen to can get me out of the funk of being stuck or bored or lacking ideas because music carries imagination inside my head. So I
Mm.
would listen to music when I do work at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
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 Mhm. Yeah.
I think also it's so important for us to have this keen eye for observation. Like when we're animating a character, it's
Yeah.
always based off life.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
it's so
Yeah.
important for us to actually have that eye to observe stuff, which I find
Yeah.
that most
Mm.
students probably don't have. They kind of they
Mm.
view things in a very cursory fashion, or they kind of felt that it
Mm.
doesn't deal or matter to
Mm.
them,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
observing how an old lady walks, looking at the mannerisms of an old woman, what she would do and stuff like that, looking at those
Yeah.
small little nuances of
Her
movements.
poses, her
Yeah.
line of
Correct,
action, the
correct.
timing
And
of her movement.
correct, the
Yeah.
timing of a movement, all these little
Mm.
principles, I would say, of
Mm.
animation
Those are
helps a
distinctive
lot.
things that's very important in making the
Yeah,
character come
Mm,
alive. Otherwise,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
also these
mhm.
nuances that help us immediately recognize even our friends from like a football field away.
Correct.
Like
Yes.
definitely that's my friend over there, right?
Yeah.
So
yes,
how do
Yeah.
you know it when you didn't get to see the details? It's
Mm-hmm.
all these things
Yeah.
that you just observe and absorbed because
Mm.
you're so
Mm,
intimately linked with that person,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
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 Mm. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Right. Next. Oh, this is a definite fan of yours, right? Yun Hui Yong
Mm,
says, Your work
hi.
amazes me. I'm so happy. I'm so
Thank
happy
you
that you're
very
a character
much,
designer and now you're
William.
a
So
cartoon
glad.
director. Congratulations.
Yay.
Thank you,
Yay.
William.
Yeah. Okay, then she says, by the way, can I know how to draw some of the creative pictures that how you came to draw some of the creative pictures that come to your mind? Do you have any drawing steps, skills that you can share with me?
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Rule of thumb: if I have an idea that I want to try but never done before, so how do I begin? I would sketch, doodling on a piece of paper. Keep a doodle sketchbook always, because you don't want to rough up the proper canvas. You want to put your ideas on the side first. So work out how you like the scene to turn out just by putting in drafts, variations of different drafts. And you can even look up references from other sources just to expound from that and capture the idea. Like Eugene said, it's all about your observation. Then you absorb it and then you apply it into your drawing. So that would be doodle and develop the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Then you reference and tweak it. Then work out several variations of that idea. Then only if you're satisfied, you finally fine tune it and tidy it up. Yeah. And
Yeah.
once you're satisfied with the result, if you're brave enough, show it to your friends or put it put it out on social media to get feedback. And hopefully it'll work for you. But as a general rule, if you really like what you do in the result, most of the time other people will.
okay, so can I like
Mm,
repeat that, okay, from perspective of a person
mm,
maybe who just wants to start drawing. So for example,
mm,
I have an idea, I want to draw a chicken on top of a roof.
mm,
Then I simply
mm,
doodle what I think a chicken looks like first, and then a roof.
mm,
And then I go look
mm,
for reference of a chicken to fill in
mm,
parts that is missing,
mm,
right?
mm,
Okay, then I want to create the environment, so maybe the composition, right?
mm.
And then do several maybe versions, meaning different perspective or add different things that I want in that scene, right? Something like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Also reiterating absorbing other materials rather other than what you do like.
Mm.
When you say draw chicken on the roof, the first thing that came to my mind, oh, I can reference from Chanticleer, the story, and it's got a lot of artwork based on that chicken on the roof, cockroach
Ah, okay.
crowing in the morning. It's been done by other people already. Look
Okay.
at that, see how their take on it, and
Mm,
try not to copy it
mm,
directly.
mm,
Do your own version, and you know something has been done before. Don't do it again.
mm.
Do your own thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's why it's always important to do your homework so you
Mm-hmm.
can fall back on what you need later on.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm,
Okay, great. A question by somebody anonymous. I think you've
mhm,
already covered this
mhm,
quite a lot. So
Extensively, yeah.
mm,
what has
yeah,
influenced your artistic style? So
mm,
basically, yeah, all
yeah,
the stuff
2D
that you said.
animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
but in general, 2D animation, comics, especially European ones, the band dessines.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I love to see the sketches, the raw lines and drawings
Yes,
from other
absolutely.
artists' books. That's the only thing I would part my money with. I wouldn't buy the cleaned up stuff. I want to see the raw form
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
initial
Exactly,
stages.
exactly. That's what
Yeah.
we all want to see.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
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 looking at drawings that has gestural lines and wow,
Yeah.
so
Mm.
awesome that
The
one.
thought
Mm,
process that went into
Yes.
it is what you
Mm.
want.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
This other question. I think
Mm,
you also addressed it together with Eugene on in your
mm,
live presentation, right? How 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 is long distance working relationship
mm,
working out for you? Advantages and
mm.
disadvantages of that.
I did say because I'm an introvert, it's working out beautifully for me.
Yes, yes.
So many advantages.
Yeah.
Very It's very well placed because I don't have to. The time that I could have used for commuting, for example, to work could be now used in a more productive way. I could I have able to move to a different environment, be influenced by them, not jaded, set in one place all the time. It's cost effective. There's no wastage. Less physical distraction. I mean, I can go on and on all the advantages. The only downside would be, like we said, was physical interaction is not there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not
I think,
personable.
yeah,
Yeah.
most of us suffer from that, but thank goodness
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not an
Mm-hmm.
extrovert
Mm-hmm.
either.
But
So
Eugene,
I
how
do
is it
miss
working for you,
people.
extrovert Eugene? I think you're
I'm
really
not.
extrovert, yeah?
I'm to be honest. I am not. I'm very much an introvert. I feel that I am an extrovert because people perceive me to be an extrovert because
Mhm.
of how I kind of put myself or present myself out in public. But I
Mm-hmm.
am really thriving in this
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I like Sandra. I just bought up so much art materials. I have no
Mm-mm-mm.
time to use them, and I should stop
Yeah.
shopping online for art materials. And there's just
Ah.
so much of stuff, yeah,
Mhm.
that I
Mm-hmm.
want to do. But I'm very
Mm,
much an
mm,
introvert, and I
mm,
think that I'm thriving in this current
mm,
situation. I think, and it doesn't help that both my wife
mm,
and I are introvert. So we
mm.
are the kind of parents who hope we don't get invited to birthday parties.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just sure,
Oh, it's all
I
out there
mean,
now.
yeah, it's all there,
Sorry.
but no, we do it. We do it for our
Mm.
kids because we know it's healthy for them. But sometimes we just wish like, we wish that they would retract that that invitation and stuff.
Oh, now I know,
So
huh?
we're the kind of parents right now.
Yeah.
And I think
Oh,
it's really silent out there with some parents. I There could be some parents who are really extroverted who wants to organize parties all the time, but we're always
mm.
looking for excuses not to organize
Yeah.
one.
The
Yeah.
pandemic is perfect, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah,
as an
yeah.
excuse.
Correct,
So,
correct.
just touching on one more disadvantage I find that was crucial if we were in the studio and not working offsite would be when I work alongside the departments, the supervisors, my feedback and the result comes back faster. If I were to sit
Mm,
next to them and then
mm,
review and
yes,
then do
yes.
the retakes straight
Right.
ahead, that would be
Okay.
faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this case, we have to wait for the results and
Yeah.
then the feedback comes back slow.
Yes.
That's the only drawbacks of working offsite.
Yeah, it's kind of
Mm,
the same for us as well. I mean,
mm,
in teaching, when we are working
mm.
from home, I mean, the downside is most people think that if you're not at the office, you are holidaying somehow, right? But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reality is the internet and Zoom fatigue is so real, and
Oh,
we
Mm-mm.
spend like at least 5 times the amount of energy and time
More
doing
time.
something
Yeah,
online
yeah.
rather than doing things in person, right? So
Correct.
it's
yeah.
not a matter of, oh, everybody prefers to not come back to work at the office,
Mm,
because
mm.
actually there's more work online rather than
Yeah,
physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so
yeah.
much more to prepare, so much time that takes, in order to get feedback
Mm,
back, right?
Mm.
So
yeah, yeah,
it's
I
it's
mean, just downloading students' work already takes time before you even start the
yeah.
marking.
And
Whereas if
back,
yeah,
it's
Correct.
don't forget
physical,
you need to back up all the stuff.
yeah,
yeah,
if it's
Mm,
physical, you just carry the books and then you just do your marking.
yeah,
That's it. No
Yeah, and you
problem.
know that there's
Yeah,
only that one book right now. You have to
yeah.
sift through. Where did I put that folder?
and
yeah.
not only that, yeah, I find it even faster to give loads of
Correct.
comments,
Yeah.
in physical form rather
Mm,
than
Correct.
clicking, typing, and it's
mm,
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it really takes
Absolutely.
it out of you.
double or triple the
Yeah.
time it takes to,
Yeah,
give comment to students and also to mark
mhm,
works.
I would say at least
mhm,
5 times.
Mm,
Not only the time, but the energy that it takes
mm,
Yeah.
to do that,
mm,
right?
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So anyway,
mhm.
another question. Yun Hui Yong is trying to ask you. Oh, first, your black and white sketch is great, right?
Thank you.
Apart from this, do you have any special experience or suggestions for oil painting?
Wow.
I think this is Eugene's one because I hardly oil paint. The only time I've touched oil painting is when I was a kid, and
Mm,
it's expensive.
yes.
So the
So
only
expensive.
Mhm.
only recommendation I say use good products like
Yeah,
Winsor and Newton
correct. I
and
would not settle for anything less lah, you know.
Do you
less.
do
And I
oil
Yeah.
think,
painting?
And
I would.
Eugene,
We,
sorry.
you do oil painting, Eugene?
Some I've done. I mean,
uh-huh.
quite recently some, but not as much as I like to. I find that quite recently I've been kind of experimenting with different mediums, and you know that my for my masters I actually did like a research on woodcut prints, and I've been
Mhm.
doing a bit of that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've just taken on way too much projects recently in the
Mm.
past years. And
Mm.
yeah, for me, it's like on top of I mean, back to the previous question, we were doing so much more online right now with so much
yeah.
work. But on top of that, for me, I'm a practitioner as well, so I still have projects streaming in like even more
Mm.
than before the pandemic. And it doesn't help that
Mm.
my with my social media account has grown, so I
Mm.
have been getting requests to do stuff online and training, especially. And I think
Mm.
because of the nature of my subject matter,
Mm.
I've been getting requests from parents to do like workshops and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, there has been my portfolio is kind of diversing. So I think something has to go. So firstly, for me, I'm gonna minus down on like doing commercial and corporate work a little more and delve more into
Mhm.
painting and
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
physical medium stuff. So yeah. But I think for
Mhm.
back to the oil painting question, the best invention is odorless thinner. That's the best thing ever because you know
Mm.
Yeah.
having to do oil paint before you need the thinner
Oh, yes, in
to
the
add,
past.
Yes.
and
Yes.
you feel like you smell like a contractor after that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So an odorless thinner is a bit more expensive, but it's the best thing to invest in. But nowadays,
Mm.
when you go
Mm.
online shopping, you can get a
Mm.
lot cheaper options there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other general advice would be learn your color mixes in a
Mm.
Mhm.
separate page before applying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Know what is the result you'll get. Apply different number of
Correct.
brush sizes to get the
Yeah.
results you need, and don't forget to use alcohol to wash your
Wash your
brushes after
brushes.
use
Don't
every
leave them.
session. Yeah.
I found a value in no matter what medium that you guys are working with, like be
Mm.
it watercolor or oil paints, to actually create your own color palette and just stick
Mm.
it out. Even with
On the side.
I yeah on the side, like with every new material I get nowadays, especially physical mediums, I tend to test it out because sometimes the color on the tube is not the color you see on paper. So
Yeah.
it's good to
Mhm.
kind of just create a color palette and see what works. And I think
Mhm.
just referring to one of our friends, a mutual friend we have, Jason Chan, part
Mm.
of your
Yeah, yeah,
Uranus
yeah.
and Mars. Yeah, Jason Chan, Only Parkland. You can find him on his Instagram page. He is a master in creating color palettes for watercolor. So you go check out his page.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
gives workshops once in a while as well. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, I would like to give
Okay.
advice based on my experience of doing oil paints in the past. Not that I'm a master in anything, but if you want to produce a one-off artwork, then you do oil. But if you want to do fast sketches with lots of images, then that would not be a good medium for you to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because oil works best when you're building the layers, then you see the richness of the work. Yeah, you can't use oil like illustrative one layer, flat layer. It will not look good in that way.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
so my advice is choose the right medium for whatever it is you want to do. Don't
Yeah.
just simply think, oh, I want to use oil and use it. You can experiment, of course, nobody's stopping you from doing that. But
Yeah.
the best is if you want the richness to come across, then it is usually one or two one-off, paintings that you want to
Yeah.
produce. Okay, that you can insert into the animation, for example.
Mm.
But if you want to do a lot, that's not a good medium. It takes time to dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
You
And
need
for
patience, and you also need I would say if you're beginning, you don't need to go for the best materials.
mm, mm,
Uh,
mm.
like when I
We
was
used to use
beginning,
Marie.
yeah, I used to
Marie.
use the China brand one with a panda there, and then some
Even
tubes are
Marie
even
is more
all like
expensive now.
yeah, all kicked up and all that. that sort of thing. But if you are learning the medium, don't go for the most expensive stuff. Learn it first with the less expensive materials and then work your way up from that.
Mm.
Also going back to that question, I think for animators, if you're in an animation line, there is a reason why you don't see us using all paint that much. Like all paints are like what Claire said, a one-off thing. I do a
Mm.
painting with it.
Yeah.
But when you look at our sketches, we usually deal with gouache or
Mm,
watercolor, something
mm,
that dries fast
yes.
because we
Mm.
need to lock down our
Acrylic is also maybe possibly a good
uh
Yeah.
medium to use.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So again, I had a friend who was using oil paint, like it's illustrator's way of doing it. The end result, I must say, wasn't very successful. Yeah.
Mm.
So if you want to build layers and make it look very rich, then oil paint you can experiment. But if you want it to be fast, that's a very not
Mhm.
a very good medium to use. Takes time to dry.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that's all good. Next question. Yang Kai Ting. Uh, I get the impression that many people like to express their emotions by drawing. So, Miss Sandra, do you ever use drawings to vent when life is
Yeah.
unsatisfactory? And will this type of work usually be used or displayed by you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do tend to vent and draw what I feel most of the time, actually,
That's
when the
quite
mood
obvious.
kicks in and when I have the time. And but I like to humorize them so that I can share them later with people who have experienced those mood swings or whatever that entails. And yeah, also for the amusement of others. And maybe I can just quickly share some or one of them. Like for example, this one here.
Good one.
So I was venting.
Good one.
I drew it out as a situation at the office.
Poor
Um,
Josephine.
No,
Who's
if I were
Josephine? What did
his name
she
is
Josephine, I'll
do?
Joe.
laugh my boot off. Okay. So funny.
Yeah, his name is Joe, but I call him Josephine when I'm upset. So
Oh,
Oh,
his
I
name. Okay.
see.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes.
I
it's a
just
running gag with us.
I wonder what happened at lunch at Al Mukalla.
Yeah,
Something must have
yeah,
happened. Yeah.
yeah. Something must have happened. I can't even remember, but you have moments like this that is drafted out, and
Yeah.
then you can remember it for life as a souvenir. Yeah. Okay.
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 All right. So Shi Ying Teo says,
Mm,
I've seen a few of your drawings on Behance, but not a lot of work posted there. So I'm wondering if there's
mm.
other channels that we can see your drawing. It's super amazing. Lots of details. So nice. Okay. So thank you so much for your kind
Thank
interest.
you,
Okay.
Sheen.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So
you
that
gave a
one.
bunch
Links.
of your links
Yeah.
and sites
We're
here.
gonna post this in
Mm-mm.
the Facebook so you can go and look at her work, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Everyone who's
Yes.
asked for where to find
We'll
all this, we will post it in Utah's website.
Yeah.
website will also be
CFAR.
it's going to be in the bottom of the description in the YouTube in this YouTube video. So
Yeah.
look in the description below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, it'll all be there. So Kong Qian says, "Hi there.
Mhm.
Your work looks super great. So
Thank you.
what's the most challenging project you have worked on so far?"
Oh, that could be
To
interesting.
yeah, to date, I would have to give the hat off to Oreganimals because
Oh,
it was my
really?
first. It was my first big project, taking on a very responsible role. Because when I started in Oreganimals, I was just a character designer.
Mm.
Then I told you guys that from there they discovered that I could help in production by
Mm.
giving tips and drafts to the animators how to improve the scenes
Yeah.
in the animation. So that in the midway, I was given the job of upgrade to assistant director minus training, the time to absorb and train to do the role. And that's why I put it as the most challenging because I was still the designer, bearing in mind. I still had to churn out artworks for the art department while at the same time looking into production. So this is where I learned how to multitask.
So the
And
other part,
because
you
of
felt a bit out of your element, right? So it was a bit uncomfortable, right? Because it was the new
uh,
role you had to take on.
it was it was new, and also bearing in mind I'm an introvert, so having to go into attend meetings and be in the role of the person to hold the chair speaker and start addressing people in shots or your assets and things like that, and you need to give feedback. That's totally out of my comfort zone, and I was just thrown into the lion's den per se at that time. So I had to sink or swim basically. That's why it was so challenging. And
Mm,
also knowing that Oreganimals had to drag a bit in terms of delivery dates because we had to revisit some of the episodes again and redo it. So it kind of synced with another project that was happening at the same time.
mm,
So I had to do another project on top of trying to finish Oreganimals at that time.
okay.
So yeah, that's why it
Oreganimals,
was challenging.
you can find it in Netflix, is it now? No?
Yeah, no, YouTube.
YouTube. Oh,
You
okay.
can
Yeah,
YouTube, yeah.
let's go and check
You
it
can
out.
look it
Yeah.
up.
Do
Mm.
you want me to share one of your videos, the intros for Oreganimals?
I think
You
if
can
we're
share it.
running out of time, we can put it available
Yeah,
in
we
the
yeah we
Yeah,
could add that in the link as well.
yeah,
It's
in the
Mm.
already
description.
close to
Okay.
10:30, so I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
we
yeah.
Mm.
can move along.
Right,
mm,
right. So, next question. Tan Qian Ni says, "Oh, by
mhm,
the way, I quite appreciate your drawing. Yay!"
mm.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. And then the question: Hi, how would you construct a frame for your inspiration? Do you have any advice to get more inspirations for being creative?
Mm,
And are you exposed to this kind
mm.
of art a lot?
Yeah, any work you do, you always have to compose the scene. So, but honestly, I don't have a rule of thumb per se because I'm still learning as we
Mm.
go along, albeit for animation or for publications. So I would say always when composing a scene, find out the intention of the shot first and what
Yeah,
is the message behind it.
correct.
You can draft out variations of that interpretation and idea onto a thumbnail
Mhm.
and short skits and see whether or not your message you want come across more
Mm.
clearly, and then you
Mm.
run with it.
All
That's
right.
all I can say because there's
Okay.
so many ways of doing fleshing out a frame and a
Correct.
scene.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. Next question.
Mhm.
Su Fi Heng says,
Mm.
"Your work is really amazing. I really, really love your art style. Keep it up." Right? Yeah. So, also want to ask, have you
Mm.
faced any challenges as an artist, especially during these trying times of the pandemic? And if you have, what were they? And did your work go on like normal? And
Mm.
also, have you ever felt stuck when you draw, like
Mm.
suddenly no
Mm.
idea and your
Mm.
memory wasn't cooperating?
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fi Heng. Fi Heng, right? That's how
Yeah,
you say
Fi
your
Heng,
name.
Fi Heng.
Fi Heng. So addressing your first question about the pandemic, as an artist during that time, the main obstacle I faced was due to the fact that I also had to move and work abroad. The uncertainty was the main factor of my worries. And but thankfully the work kept on, although the pandemic did affect a lot of our local studios, unfortunately, in the budget and financial area. And it has deeply affected us in terms of productivity, whether or not we can move forward. But thankfully, our site has been okay, and enough side gigs came in to keep me busy and keep me
Mm.
occupied. And also personally, it affected me in the sense that being a foreigner abroad, I had delays with visa renewals, and at the time also I was registering for my wedding in a foreign country. So all the nitty gritty stuff had its delays and ups and downs, or closures of the government office. So yeah, these are all the things we faced during that time.
Okay.
Mm.
All
And
right.
now, next, addressing the second question, if I ever felt stuck, it was again very short lived because too many
Yeah.
distractions,
Too many distractions.
inspirations, and ideas bombarding me at the same time. If I get into another zone and be productive there, then come back to it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. The next
Mhm.
question by Kai Yang Yu is basically about stuck as well. He says, can I know
Mhm.
what you do when you run out of ideas?
Yeah. Um, but thankfully, I've never run out of ideas
Yeah.
yet again because, again, bombarded with ideas and being inspired constantly. I record ideas in my notebooks so I can refer back to at a later stage and just press
Mm.
on with what else I need to do. So if I ever get stuck in a story per se and I have no backup, I would do a brainstorming session with my colleagues or friends, and then we figure it out step by step, case by case basis as we go along.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right. Victor Lee says, "Hi, I love your sketches. So creative and
Thank
look
you,
so
Victor.
real."
Thank
Okay.
you.
Can I know if you have ever thought of giving up when you receive criticism of your artwork, and how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I know all artists are very sensitive
Mm,
individuals,
mm,
but I would say no, not for me. Never give up because there is no such thing as bad feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they might hit you hard at the core of your soul, and you feel like packing it up and giving up.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
um, but at the end of the day, I knew that the any negative feedback you get is probably due to unsatisfactory work submitted.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even me, as a rule of thumb, anything I do, I always say give it your best shot.
Mm-hmm.
So returning back to the drawing board and doing it better after getting that criticism.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
I again I find if you are happy with the result, end of the day, most probably you won't get bad feedback. People will like it
Mm.
as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. And
Yeah, I guess
mm,
adding to that also,
mm,
Sandra, I mean,
mm,
even like base, he needs to probably define what bad feedback is.
yeah.
Does
mm,
bad feedback mean that his idea was rejected? Because sometimes
mm,
it's not that your work is not satisfactory, but on the because when we're doing a production, for example,
mm,
like the
mm,
recent one we did together, I felt that though some of our ideas were put on the side or rather not
mm,
accepted, it's because we kind of need to look at it as a team and what the
mm.
overall goal of the story is.
Yeah.
It could have been a great idea, but it doesn't stand with the
Mm,
story. Then we need to kind of sideline
yeah.
that, and
Mm,
we need to work together. And it's a team effort. You
mm,
know, it's going to be
yeah.
a production. The result of a production is usually the amalgamation of different
Mm, mm,
ideas, and
mm, mm,
it
mm,
has to be
mm.
the best out of these different ideas. So
Yeah.
sometimes in
Yeah.
a production, just because your idea gets rejected, it
It
doesn't mean
doesn't
that
mean
it's
it's
bad.
bad.
It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
doesn't work in this thing, and someone might have a better one. And I think if we open our minds
Yeah.
to that, we won't feel so
Yeah.
dejected.
Dejected. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't feel
yeah,
dejected
yeah.
because
I agree
also
with
outside influence is
Mm,
how people, whether or not there's a demand for it or
mm,
whether it feels as a need at that time. That's about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I
Sorry,
agree
Claire.
with all that, and I think sometimes it helps if you do not take it as when someone so-called criticizes your work, take it
Mm,
as looking at what can be improved rather than oh
mm,
my
mm,
god they're criticizing me. So if
Mm,
you don't
mm,
take it
mm,
personally, there's no need for you to feel too down about
mm.
it. Yeah, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
of course, being human,
Yeah.
sometimes when we are having a bad day, we would take it personally. So when that
Yeah. Yeah.
happens, cry, go do something that you like, go sleep it off, and then next day start again because you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick
that's
yourself
how
up
you go
again.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I can
I would,
sympathize because I know us artists are very fragile
All right.
creatures.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
cried a few times too when my staff was criticized. Yeah, most people, if you are my
Yeah.
student, you'll be like, "Huh, Miss Claire cry." Okay, but yeah, we have good days and
Yeah.
bad days. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just
yep.
you brush it off and then you continue. You continue the
Mm.
next day. Okay.
I would
Yeah. Yeah.
say your perspective on what is a criticism and what is a
Mm.
feedback is really important.
Mm.
Sometimes it's just a
Yes.
matter of once you change your perspective, everything
Mm.
changes after that.
Mm.
Because if you always take it as a negative thing, always take it as a judgment upon yourself, then
Mm.
it will
Mm.
always be negative and you always feel bad about it and you won't ever
Yeah.
be able to unstuck yourself from that mindset.
Mm,
So to me,
Mm.
I always feel any feedback is just feedback. There's no bad or good
Yeah.
about it. What
Yeah.
is bad or
Yeah.
good about it is how I choose to receive it. So if
Yeah.
I choose to see it as a
Mm.
bad thing, that's the only way I'm
Mm.
ever going to take it. right? So,
Yeah.
but if you choose to see it as something that, okay, is there anything that I can use to make the work better? Then, you
Mm-mm.
know, all the better. It is something valuable to me.
Yeah.
So any feedback would be valuable in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it helps to improve the product by the end of
Correct.
the day, that's
Yeah.
your
Correct.
main
Yeah.
goal by the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Right. So next question. Gong Yok Man asks, what
Mm.
makes you love drawing characters so much, and what to start working on your character designs?
Ah, okay. This is like a personal story that I did not touch on a lot in the presentation. So, long story short, started drawing characters because I was growing up as a sickly child at that time. So drawing was a way of escape for me and a way of entertaining myself when I'm alone. Let's say I was there's a sports day and I cannot participate because I was sick. So what do? I draw. I go into my own realm. I conjure up characters that I love and put them into scenes and act in. So I guess that my childhood hobby managed to carve out a strong career path for me now. So that's
Yeah.
how I ended up doing what I
Yep.
do.
That's that's precisely why you were invited to be on this panel. It's the stories, man. It's
Mm,
always the stories, and the fact that your own personal story is always weaved into the stories you churn
mm,
out. So
mm,
that's basically how everything gels together with you, right?
mm.
Right. So now we reached the last question. We are kind of like at the 2 hour mark, I think. Right. So I think
Sorry.
this
Yeah.
part two is even longer than your live presentation.
It's
But
like
I
a
think,
long
Yeah.
podcast. It's like
yeah,
podcast.
but I think
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a bonus for all the people who loved your work, stayed, and
Mm.
even
Yeah.
wanted it to go on,
Yes.
right?
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
So
That's why I didn't want to leave anyone out. I felt bad also,
yeah,
and everyone made the effort as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you
What's
for
Uh,
that.
39 questions?
yeah, it's by far the most questions I've ever seen
Yes.
accumulated in the
Yes.
We ever had
Q&A tab
39
for
questions. Yeah.
any webinar I've ever attended. Even like the 3 day webinars, conferences, I've never seen that whole mountain of, questions coming.
Questions.
Yeah,
And these are just questions, it's not even remarks.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
And some managed
Yeah.
to sneak in their remarks and congratulate you and
Yeah.
sort of
That's why we
Thank
wanted
you.
to do this because
yeah,
there were 39 questions. So we didn't want to just say, okay, forget about it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
We
It's
wanted
Yeah. Yeah.
you, the
yeah.
attendees, the audience to know that you're important. Your
yep,
questions
Correct.
are
Mm,
Correct.
important.
And like
So
Sandra said, they took the effort, to
yeah.
want to
yeah,
come.
mm.
And
And
yeah.
also,
Yeah.
Sandra, you were the last person in a very long 2 day event. To
Mm,
the fact that
Yeah.
so many turned out and so many loved your work and the
mm.
kind of amazing
Mm.
exclamations we're getting from the chat box alone.
Uh,
It's like,
I say already,
no, we've got to give this back to them, right? So
Yeah.
now drum
Yes,
roll
yeah.
for the last and most important question of
Oh
all,
wow. I
right?
want to hear this.
Unfortunately, it's from anonymous, so we can't credit
Okay.
whoever came up with this brilliant question. So, drum roll, please. Which is the yeah, which is the best, rhubarb crumble or rhubarb tart? Come on, what's the
Oh,
answer,
it must
Sandra?
be it must be from one of the photos of all the food.
Yes,
So
the rhubarb one.
um yeah, my response to that would be another question. Why settle for one or the other?
Good
I
question.
learned to cook so that I can make myself a rhubarb crumble tart. So
Yes.
hey, maybe you can show us a picture of the rhubarb again.
yeah,
Because not everyone here knows
no,
what the
I
rhubarb
don't.
is.
Rhubarb.
Um, I didn't pull
Uh,
out the picture of the rhubarb,
oh,
but
okay,
here's an
then never mind.
example of a crumble tart.
Yeah, let's
Ah,
So
go for
voila.
it,
ooh,
man.
isn't this
Yeah, this is
strawberries?
a strawberry
Mm,
Crumble
strawberry
tart.
noffee
oh,
crumble
yeah.
tart. So
Woo!
You created
uh,
this?
yeah, I did
Yeah,
this
fantastic.
from
Amazing.
scratch. So
Wow.
like,
Mm.
and it could be rhubarb on top, but I prefer strawberries. They're prettier. So
All,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
all the
yeah,
stuff
it was
on her.
supposed to be a
Yeah,
banoffee pie recipe, but I changed it up to
yeah,
what I want. So
Stroganoff.
that's why
Wow,
I learned how to cook.
interesting.
So
yeah.
again, as an artist, don't be limited by recipes. Take one
Exactly.
recipe, mix it with another, and then
Oh,
you come up with something.
Yes.
that's a nice
Ah,
way to end.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You get a
yes.
strawberry noffee crumble tart.
So why settle for anything, right? Just go
Yeah,
for it.
don't
You
follow
like
the
both,
recipe and
let's
be limited by the recipe.
have a
Yeah,
mash up, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So that
So that's me right
concludes,
there on the platter.
yeah. So that's you right there on the platter, and that's you right here for a
Mhm.
full 2 hours extra in our
Yeah,
after show. Wow,
yeah.
Che, like, Ellen, we've got an after show. Please check our FB channel and YouTube channel. Right. Okay. All right. So that concludes everything, and we've
Mm.
covered all the questions that you so lovingly wanted to address
You.
for your fans.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And also, we would like to really thank you for all the extra effort, Sandra, to make this extra time for us as well. And the effort that you went through in, getting all your works out, digging it out from your extensive collection.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
why it was so
Yeah.
precious because I mean I've known you, Sandra, for so. I mean,
Mm.
like we said, right? I practically knew you when we were teens. We're
Yeah.
playing in your garden, but I've never seen the whole spectrum of
Yeah,
your
me
Yeah.
too.
work like that
Yeah.
before. And I think it's like such a valuable thing that you
Mhm.
put out, and I seriously think you should keep this live
Yeah.
and give more workshops and
There
presentations
was
of this.
more. I just couldn't share it. Joe had to stop me and say,
Exactly. I
it's
had
too
to
much.
edit, edit,
That's
Sandra, edit.
accurate.
We
Yeah.
only have 1 hour. Yeah.
I think you
So
should publish
yeah,
some of the stuff so that we can
yeah.
Mm.
Claire and I
Mm.
were
get.
discussing it as well. We were
Mm.
thinking that it might not be a bad idea for you to start your own YouTube channel and, take
Mm.
some of your works, create your own little videos for that. I
Mm.
think
Mm,
most people
mm.
would love to see it,
Yeah.
Sandra.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
You can make
instead of,
money from the
yeah,
likes.
you can
The
monetize
view.
the subscribers and all that rather than just
Uh-huh.
not having any money for it, right?
Again,
Yeah.
like what happened for the presentation,
Hmm.
I need a kick. And
I
you,
see.
Eugene, and Joe kicked me
Yeah.
and convinced me that I had something valuable to share
Oh
because
my
I hadn't a
God.
clue when you guys
Of
It's
course
invited
you
me.
crazy
have.
not to
So
think that
thank you,
that
you
way.
Yeah.
are for seeing something of value
Yeah.
because I really had no clue. You guys had to talk me into it and tell me, convince me
Yeah.
yet
So you
again.
see,
So
you see the reception you had just on the sharing of the slides, right?
Yeah.
People
mm,
want more. Okay, so I
mm,
think it would be great for and also very educational for them to see, your works in your own YouTube channel, and you decide, you get full control over how you want to put it together in like short snippets,
mhm,
short content,
mhm,
right? So I think that would work
mhm,
really well, and also, I see how you love to put up snippets of your life in your FB channel, Malaysian artists
mhm,
abroad, right?
mhm,
I'm sure lots of people would like to see that happening.
Mm.
So you try it out in small snippets, and I think you will get a subscriber, a following, and then the world will get another chance to see
Mm.
Sandra, and you get a
Me.
chance to tell your story on your own terms without
uh-huh,
anyone messing it up for
uh-huh.
you.
Now,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
the video is not too long, 15 minutes, I think lots of people will
Yeah.
be watching it over and
Yeah,
over
I
again.
might get it done if you, Claire, and Joe task it as an assignment.
Ooh, oh, back to school again.
I think we're a bit beyond that already, Sandra, for us giving you assignments.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you
But
can
at
do it,
least I'll
then
get it
you can
done.
run it by us if you want. We
Yeah.
can meet up via
Yeah,
Zoom.
Yeah.
it doesn't even need to be that long. It can even be like 30 seconds because you
Mm,
see this
Mm,
weird stuff that people are posting up. It's so
yeah,
entertaining that people can't get
yes.
enough of it.
mhm,
Let people
And
share
for all
stories.
the viewers who are watching this video,
mm,
we're still recording, right? I
Yeah.
think this is a
yes.
nice little get together. Just in case you guys
Mm,
don't know, Claire and Joanne are like both Sandra and my lecturers, and it's like a decade, more than almost close to 2 decades
I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
20
of a
years usually.
relationship.
20
yes,
years
yes.
usually. Okay.
don't
Yeah.
give away
Yeah.
our age, Eugene.
Hey,
They
if
already
we are not embarrassed, why are you guys embarrassed?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
yeah, I
it's
think
a nice
yeah.
nice way to
Mm.
meet up again and talk
Mm.
about, especially
Yeah,
art, which is what brought us all together in the first place.
Mm.
exactly,
And we
exactly.
all love
Yeah.
art.
We all love
Mm.
art. We all love stories. We all love how
Mm.
art tells stories all the time.
Mm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We
So
love
Yeah.
other
now,
people's art and we also love our own art. Yeah.
Mm.
yep. And there is
So,
art everywhere, even in the art of teaching. So
mm.
there's creativity
So
everywhere. Yeah.
mm, I like to take the opportunity to thank Joe, Eugene, Claire for coming here and giving me the time to address all these questions that people asked. And also thank you to you, Tar, for inviting me. This is my first presentation, and I'm happy that it worked out well for everyone. And I hope we did address everyone's questions by the end of the day.
We
If
did.
not, also throw in a question again
Yeah.
in the future website. Maybe we can come back to that at a
Okay.
later date. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
All
All right,
right.
so that
Welcome.
wraps this up, and I think it's more than 2 hours already. So thank you
Mhm.
everyone for joining us
Mhm.
again. Thank you for having the
Mhm.
patience and the interest and enthusiasm for all of this, right?
Mhm.
So thank you,
Mhm.
Claire and Eugene as well, for being such fantastic team members on this
Mhm.
amazing event. And of course, Sandra, thank you so much for agreeing in the first place to be on this thing.
Yeah.
And last but not least, of course, all you attendees out there, you guys made it fantastic. Okay. So come back again where we have another event, and we'll be so glad to have you guys with us again. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye. Good night. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.